the Mulan people attacked Tianan. Yuaning, Han Li, in his early Yuaning stage, represented the Luo Yun sect, Dream's true devil gong that was disbanded in the black mist. A dark, indistinct object shot straight towards Han Li, flying swiftly towards him. Once it emerged from the black mist, it flashed with black light and vanished into thin air. Seeing this situation, Han Li's expression darkened. His figure silently shot. It actually intended to use a pair of sharp claws to slice Han Li into countless pieces of flesh. Han Li took a deep breath. With a strange expression on his face, he neither dodged nor evaded. Instead, he rubbed his hands together and thrust them upwards. A peal of thunder exploded forth. A pale golden net of lightning materialized out of thin air above Han Li's head. It fearlessly rose to meet the claw shadows. The black shadow was greatly alarmed to see this, but there was no time to think. The sharp claws still slashed down ruthlessly, without hesitation. In his mind, perhaps ordinary demonic arts could be somewhat countered by lightning attribute attacks, but his sky-killing needle demonic art was not something ordinary demonic attacks could compare to. Mere lightning couldn't harm it in the slightest. This person before me, who seems to know something that makes me extremely uncomfortable, will soon meet his end. The Black Shadow's thoughts hadn't even finished processing when he suddenly felt his dwarf's body violently exploded, transforming into countless strands of shiny black threads that shot out in all directions. A glint of light flashed in Han Li's eyes. The hands controlling the golden electric arcs suddenly trembled. A golden light burst forth. The electric net exploded outwards. Countless electric arcs leapt out, expanding over a much wider area. What was once a dense web of electric light suddenly reformed, and then instantly began to shrink rapidly. As a result, after those black threads shot out, they naturally all crashed into the golden arcs. Loud sizzling sounds rang out. Under the fierce assault of the golden arcs, the black threads transformed into countless wisps of black smoke, rising within the net, accompanied by the constant sound of miserable screams and wails. It was utterly horrifying. Afterwards, the black threads fearfully retreated to the center of the golden net, and condensed into a jet black, glossy, demonic infant. Its face was filled with horror and fear. Then, it opened its mouth. Billows of inky they gradually faded. A moment later, it fell completely silent. Seeing this, Han Li inwardly breathed a sigh of relief. With a sweep of the golden arc in his hand, he exchanged a few words with a black-robed person, to him unleashing the evil warding divine lightning to destroy his opponent. The process was over in the blink of an eye. Not only the bald, burly man below, and Elder Ma Din and the others watched, completely dumbfounded. Even High Priest Gao Shou from above and Ku Yao, the two great shamans of Mulan, were also staring blankly, unable to believe what was happening before their very eyes. You see, the Tianan cultivators did not know the background of the black-robed figures, but they knew most of the story. These mysterious cultivators came from the vast empire on the other side of the Mulan grasslands, although it was unknown why they had suddenly come to the Mulan grasslands, and how the divine shamans of the three great Mulan tribes had reached some sort of agreement, causing them to offer their assistance. But without a doubt, these people's cultivation techniques and divine abilities far surpassed those of cultivators of the same rank in the Tianan cultivation world. In fact, before the real battle had even begun, the Tianan Nascent Soul cultivators had already been eliminated by them one after another. This made the two great shamans of Mulan feel quite confident in the black-robed figures. And as for this second magical duel, the reason they let the black-robed figure participate was because they felt that the cultivators assisting the Great Restriction formation were a bit too numerous. It's best to catch them by surprise and take out or severely injure one of them first. But who would have known? The other side had a young man who seemed to have only average power, yet he effortlessly managed to defeat the black-robed cultivator and completely eliminate him. Even his nascent soul couldn't escape. How could this not come as a great shock to the two of them? Yao Shou Fashi and Ku Yao finally snapped out of it. They exchanged a horrified glance, and a look of hesitation appeared on their faces, unsure whether they should continue sending people to challenge them, or simply order the mages behind them to swarm forward all at once. Just at that moment, a few words suddenly reached their ears. A faint, barely audible voice. The voice was almost as soft as silence itself. Our momentum has been broken for today. Let's retreat for now. We will return tomorrow. By then, this formation might have already weakened. As for the matter of Tiaker's death, it may be a bit troublesome, but I will explain it to the divine masters myself. It was impossible to tell if the voice was male or female, but its words carried an undeniable tone of command. Although Gao Shou Fashi and Ku Yao were startled to hear this, they immediately obeyed without a second thought. They turned and loudly commanded the mages behind them. After a brief commotion among the mages behind them, no one raised any objections. The front ranks became the rear as they slowly retreated. These two grandmasters naturally covered the retreat, but just before they flew off, the two of them glanced at the cultivators with grim expressions, and gave a particularly fierce glare at Han Li. Before turning to leave, "Should we pursue them?" Gu Shuangpu asked, looking at the distant army of mages. His tone was somewhat uncertain. "Forget it. The Mulan people have retreated, but they are not defeated. If the few of us rush over, we might be careless and get trapped by them instead. It's better to rely on the grand formation and wait for them to exhaust themselves. Our Yellow Dragon Mountain's Thousand Illusions formation is not so easily broken. Even if the Mulan people could take it down, they would have to sacrifice at least half of these mages, which is most likely wishful thinking." The burly man pondered for a moment, and said, shaking his head. However, as he was saying this, he couldn't help but turn his head, to glance at Han Li beside him, because the scene of Han Li slaying the black-robed man was too far beyond the cultivator's expectations. As a result, when Han Li flew back, there was an awkward silence among the cultivators. None of them knew what to say. Now, as the burly man looked over, Han Li's expression was as calm as ever. He was just toying with the black storage item in his hand. After he put it away, everyone just smiled faintly. Before, when Han Li smiled like this, the others didn't think much of it. But now, after he had just killed a Nascent Soul cultivator, seeing Han Li smile again, everyone simultaneously had a strange feeling that he was profound and unfathomable. A strange and unfathomable feeling. The trace of contempt they originally held in their hearts had completely vanished. This time, for fellow Taoist Han to slay a high-level cultivator from the other side in one move is truly worthy of congratulations. When I, Liu, get back, I will definitely report this to the Alliance. Our Alliance will certainly reward you handsomely, fellow Taoist. The large, bald-browed man returned a smile, speaking words of congratulations. The elderly man Ma and Gu Shuangpu also snapped out of it. They too put on smiling faces, and offered a few words of praise, but their attitude toward Han Li was naturally and subtly different from before. In their words, a sense of reverence for Han Li was faintly revealed. Han Li seemed not to notice at all. He also politely exchanged a few pleasantries with the same expression. It's just that, while he was speaking, Han Li's gaze casually glanced a couple of extra times at one of them, and when no one was paying attention to his expression, a faint, almost imperceptible smile played on the corners of his mouth. After the figures of the mage army finally vanished from sight, the bald, burly man performed a technique, opening a passage through the sea of mist. The group quickly vanished into the passage. The sea of mist sealed the entrance once again. The area around Yellow Dragon Mountain fell silent once more, leaving only a boundless expanse of green mist, silent and perfectly still. Han Li and the others returned to the Great Hall. There was not much to be said. After briefly discussing the great battle of the day, everyone bid their farewells and departed, returning to their own quarters to rest. This was especially true for the old man surnamed Ma. Not only was his treasured artifact destroyed, but his vital energy was also greatly depleted. He was in urgent need of medicine and meditation to restore his magical power. In the blink of an eye, everyone in the Great Hall had dispersed, leaving only the bald, burly man alone. He sat on the main seat with his head lowered, his face solemn as he was lost in deep thought. It was unclear what he was thinking about. After a moment, his brow suddenly twitched. His expression flickered as he called out in a low voice, "Who is there? Come on out. Hey, Brother Liu. Your spiritual arts are as profound as expected. I was detected the very moment I came in. No wonder the Nine Nations Alliance lets you guard this area all by yourself." At the entrance of the Great Hall, which was originally empty, a flash of light appeared. A figure revealed himself with a smile. "It's you, fellow Taoist. Shouldn't you be resting? Why did you conceal your presence and return after leaving?" The burly, thick-browed man furrowed his brow. He asked with a peculiar expression on his face. "It's nothing serious. I just suddenly discovered a secret, and I felt it was necessary to discuss it with you." "A secret? What secret?" The burly, thick-browed man was startled upon hearing this. He sized up the man before him. Then, a strange look appeared on his face. "Fellow Taoist Han of the Luo Yun sect is very likely a spy for the Mulan people," the man said without a hint of hesitation, and slowly walked forward. "A spy? Brother, have you lost your mind? Just today, fellow Taoist Han just killed a Nascent Soul stage mage. That's absolutely ridiculous." Hearing these words, the burly, thick-browed man let out a scornful laugh after his face twitched. His face was filled with complete disbelief. "I knew you wouldn't believe this, Brother Liu. but I have proof. Once you see it, fellow Taoist, you'll know I'm telling the truth." The man sighed. He showed a bitter smile. Then with a flip of his hand, a light flashed. A green jade slip appeared in his hand. He took a few more steps forward, approaching the burly man. The burly man's eyes showed surprise. After a slight hesitation, he still stood up to greet him, and he extended an arm forward. Seeing this, the man raised his hand with a calm expression, as if he was about to hand it over. Just as the burly man's fingers were about to touch the jade slip, that man's expression suddenly changed. A vicious look flashed across his face and was gone. The jade slip flashed with green light, and suddenly transformed into a small, emerald green snake. With lightning speed, it bit the burly man on the wrist. The burly man's face immediately turned deathly pale. He opened his mouth, wanting to shout something, but in an instant, his face turned black and purple. Then, his entire body, without a sound, collapsed limply to the ground, becoming completely still. The two-tailed emerald snake truly lives up to its reputation in terms of its venom's potency. I'm afraid it's not much weaker than the legendary 10 Alut's poison. It's hardly any different. After being bitten, his nascent soul didn't even have the strength to escape. If only it had wings to fly away. Definitely an extremely sharp cultivator killer. A flash of joy appeared on the man's face. He muttered. Taking a step forward, he carefully examined what had already begun. The gradually melting corpse, and that small emerald snake released its poisonous fangs from the corpse. With a flick of its tail, it unexpectedly revealed two slender, sharp tails of the same size. Then, its two tails tapped the ground. With a whoosh, the snake shot back onto its master's palm. Then it coiled up, flicking its purplish-black forked tongue. Its eyes were an eerie, emerald green. At this moment, the ambusher held the small snake in one hand. With a light gesture from his other hand, the storage pouch on the corpse flew directly into his hand. Then, with some excitement, he sank his divine sense into it, as if he was searching for something. Impossible. Where's the token? I clearly saw him put it in the storage pouch a moment ago, the man exclaimed in a low voice. Then, still unwilling to give up, he emptied the storage pouch in his hand onto the ground. A white mist sprayed out from the pouch's opening. A pile of low-grade magical artifacts and a few low-rank spirit stones appeared on the ground. Upon seeing the object on the ground clearly, the man's face instantly turned deathly pale. A green light suddenly erupted from his body. Without a word, he transformed into a streak of light and fled towards the shop's entrance. A long sigh echoed through the great hall. Then, a faint light flickered silently across the four walls. Layer after layer of silver light curtains appeared like rolling waves and formed a massive barrier of light, trapping the man within it. The man snorted coldly. His escaping light showed no intention of stopping at all. Instead, he slapped a bag at his waist with one hand. A jet-black, pangolin-like spirit beast leapt out from the bag and rammed its head into the barrier before it. A dull thud resounded. The silver light barrier didn't even tremble, and instantly sent the spirit beast flying back. The man's heart sank at the sight, but he immediately gritted his teeth and spat out a blue flying fork. In an instant, the magic treasure and his escaping light merged into one, transforming into a thick streak of blue and red light, which also slammed fiercely against the light barrier. Another loud rumble was heard. The blue light was mercilessly repelled, flying dozens of feet away. It circled once before nearly falling to the ground. Your Excellency, there's no need to waste your effort. This great hall is actually the very center of the entire great formation of Yellow Dragon Mountain. It is also the place with the most powerful restrictions. Since you've fallen into it, don't even think about getting out again. A faint voice echoed within the great hall. It was extremely familiar. It sounded just like the voice of that bald, burly man. You really didn't die after all. That dead body from before was a flesh puppet, wasn't it? I've long heard that the Nine Nations Alliance has a mysterious cultivator, who is skilled at refining for others something identical to the person themselves. A blood-flesh puppet, making it impossible for anyone to tell the real from the fake. I never thought it was actually true. In a flash of blue light, a figure was revealed. It was none other than Gu Shuangpu of the Yulan sect. It was just that his face was now pale, and his eyes were grim, but he barely managed to maintain his composure. Brother Gu, you certainly know a lot about the affairs of our Nine Nations Alliance. You know so much. You even know a thing or two about substitute puppets. That's right, the one you killed just now was indeed just a substitute of mine, a body double that I was controlling. Even a Nascent Soul cultivator, such as yourself, was unable to see through it. The difference can be seen from the outside. It can indeed pass for the real thing. A white light flashed outside. The figure of the burly man was revealed. He stared at Gu Shuangpu in the light. Then he glanced at the substitute that had already turned into a pool of filthy blood. he said indifferently. HMPH. What's the use if the appearance is the same? If I wasn't afraid of arousing your suspicion, and thus didn't dare to scan it carefully with my divine sense, this substitute of yours, did you think it could deceive me with just an empty shell? Besides, I should have thought of it long ago. My twin-tailed jade snake, after several hundred years of my careful nurturing, is certainly incomparably venomous, but it's impossible for it to easily kill a Nascent Soul. Cultivator. Originally, I only planned to use this snake to severely injure you. It was just that the first strike was successful, which made me mistakenly think I had underestimated the snake's venom. It seems I was indeed a bit arrogant, Gu Shuangpu said, his expression as grim as water. A hint of regret flashed in his eyes. Heh. Lu, had someone refine this substitute. It was just on a whim. Of course, I never really thought that such a lifeless thing could compare to something like an external incarnation, but with just a puppet like this, I was able to lure out the villain Gu, for a traitor colluding with the Mulan people to come out. It seems my many treats were not wasted after all. The big man, Lu Din, said with a smile instead of anger. Gu Shuangpu's face twitched. He fell silent for a moment, but after a moment, he asked coldly, listening to your tone, it seems you knew I would come for you. You even prepared a substitute in advance. Don't tell me you discovered me the moment I arrived at Yellow Dragon Mountain. No, that's not it. Why would I suspect an elder of the Yulan sect for no reason? I was merely acting on a tip from someone else. Originally, I was still half convinced and half doubtful about this matter. But now, I am absolutely certain. Fellow Taoist Han, Brother Ma, you can both come out now, the big man said, shaking his head. Then he shouted to his left and right. When Gu Shuangpu heard this, he could no longer maintain his grim expression. His face changed drastically. As a result, a yellow light flashed from the stone walls on both sides of the hall, and a person emerged from each. It was the calm-looking Han Li, and the old man Ma Din, who wore a grave expression. I never would have thought, fellow Taoist Gu, that you would do such a thing. I wonder what benefits the Mulan people promised you, for you to become so utterly depraved. The old man Ma Din had a pained look on his face. His words were filled with regret. HMPH. Despicable. I was a Mulan person to begin with. How is that despicable? My eyes stared at the old man. I retorted coldly, you're a Mulan person. This time, the thick-browed burly man was stunned. They were all quite surprised. Of course. What kind of benefit did you think could win over someone like me? A Nascent Soul cultivator. How could you Tianan cultivators possibly know of the scarcity of cultivation resources on our Mulan grasslands? Every year, countless low-level mages who could have advanced, all because they lack elixirs and spiritual aids, are forced to miss their best opportunity to cultivate. On what grounds? Why should you cultivators get to occupy such a good place, while we mages must count every single spirit stone we use? Just give us Tianan's cultivation resources. In less than 100 years, our Mulan can double the number of its mages. With such formidable strength, we can crush the two Wu people's shamans and dominate the entire Mulan grasslands. As Wu Songpu spoke, a hint of madness flashed in his eyes. Hearing these words from Gu Shuangpu, the few burly men couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. Defeat the two Wu people. From what I've heard, it seems your Mulan main force suffered a crushing defeat in the decisive battle against the two Wu people. Now, more than half of the Mulan steppes has already been occupied by the two Wu people. That's why you're making such a desperate gamble to invade our Tianan region. Han Li suddenly spoke with a blank expression. You, how do you know about this? Did you eavesdrop on the sound transmission between me and High Master Yue? When Gu Shuangpu heard Han Li's words, he was first startled, but then he immediately seemed to realize something. He instantly glared fiercely at Han Li with a murderous look, as if he wished he could devour him whole. It seems Brother Gu is a quick learner. You can't blame me for this. Who told you and that hidden spell master to be so reckless as to use the sound transmission technique right in front of me? And as it happens, my spiritual sense is just a tiny bit stronger than that of cultivators at the same level. Your transmitted words were just loud enough for me to overhear. Naturally, that enlightened me, and all the while, my expression remained unchanged. He said impassively, good, very good, a truly rare slip-up. To think I've been lying low in Tianan for so long, only to have such a leak right before we were about to act. Gu, suppose my skills are not yet perfected, but your spiritual sense is only slightly stronger than other cultivators of the same rank. Humph, you are being far too modest. Sir, the secret voice transmission technique between myself and that person, did you think it was an ordinary voice transmission? besides the powerful spiritual sense of a late Nascent Soul cultivator. I, Gu, truly don't know what other method could have been used to so stealthily eavesdrop on our conversation. Gu Shuangpu stared intently at Han Li, his face ashen, but he still said coldly, unwilling to concede. Nascent Soul. Late stage, the old man surnamed Ma, upon hearing this, was immediately startled. The rabbit-browed man was also shocked. He glanced at Han Li in terror. Han Li, however, frowned. He hadn't expected that this matter would unintentionally expose the strength of his spiritual sense. But then, his brows relaxed. A non-committal expression appeared on his face, making it impossible for others to read him. This, in turn, made the rabbit-browed man and the old man surnamed Ma become half-believing and half-doubting. After all, for an early Nascent Soul stage cultivator to possess a divine stone with power rivaling a late-stage cultivator, no matter how you look at it, that's just outrageous. Since you've admitted to being a spy, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Although I, Lu, wanted to spare your life and hand you over to the Alliance's enforcers, but with a great battle upon us, I have no choice but to annihilate both your body and soul. The man with no eyebrows finally tore his gaze away from Han Li, his expression of shock receding. After turning his head, he spoke to Gu Shuangpu within the light barrier with an exceptionally cold gaze. Then, without waiting for the other to say another word, with a flip of his hand, a brightly glowing token appeared in his hand. He raised the token and gave it a gentle shake towards the light barrier. With a soft sound, a vast expanse of silver light shot out, shooting into the light screen and disappearing from sight. Inside the light barrier, a fluorescent light flickered. Countless silver flowers materialized out of thin air. They were exceptionally beautiful, drifting down slowly from above. The moment Gu Shuangpu saw this, these silver flowers seemed like venomous scorpions to him. His expression turned ugly. Without a second thought, he slapped his own body with both hands. Several layers of multicolored light appeared around his body. At the same time, he pointed at the blue flying fork in front of him. Causing it to spin rapidly, he slammed it down from above. It transformed into a blue light screen, blocking the flag. Let's go. There's nothing more to see. No matter how high his cultivation is, he can't last long in this restriction. Before long, he will be annihilated, body and soul, by the thunder and fire. We should discuss how to handle the aftermath. Although this person is a spy for the Mulan people, he is, after all, an elder of the Yulan sect. Some things must be carefully explained to those within the sect. We need to explain it to the others. Otherwise, I'm afraid there will be future trouble. As the silver flowers burst open, filling the entire barrier of light, the bald, burly man seemed to have no interest in watching any longer. He turned and spoke gravely to Han Li and the other man. Seeing the burly man so confident in this restriction, Han Li's eyes flickered a few times, but he said nothing. Meanwhile, old man Ma shared the same concerns as the burly man. Upon hearing this, his brows also furrowed tightly. Actually, although this matter is a bit troublesome, we don't need to worry too much. Han Li suddenly smiled and said nonchalantly, "Oh, Brother Han, you mean?" The burly man naturally did not dare to ignore what Han Li said. He became a bit hesitant. The old man surnamed Ma, upon hearing this, also showed a look of surprise. The matter of a Mulan spy infiltrating Tiannan. It's impossible that a man like guild leader Gui would know nothing about this. He must have caught some in the past. It's just that a spy who is such a high-level cultivator and so well disguised is not easy to come by, making it difficult to report to the Yulan sect. But the three of us belong to different factions. So, if we were to claim that a cultivator was deliberately framed to set up the Yulan sect, most people wouldn't believe it. Therefore, we just need to explain the matter clearly, and pass on the information we heard about the Mulan people, transmitting it back as well. Let them verify it for themselves. Then it won't cause any major incidents. I think the Yulan sect itself probably had its own suspicions about this Elder Gu for a long time. After all, after so many years, for this Elder Gu to not have revealed a single clue, I simply don't believe it. Besides, even if they had no suspicions before, if they now re-examine his past activities, they will surely find something suspicious. Han stroked his chin and said in an unhurried manner, "Fellow Taoist Han, what you've just said does make sense. I also use a secret art to take the conversation I just had with him and copied it all into a jade slip. When the time comes, it can serve as a piece of evidence." The thick-browed man's frown relaxed. Suddenly, he brandished what he had been holding. A white jade cocoon was clasped in his hand. With a strange look on his face, he said, "This will do. It's a pity he's not here, because his injuries are too severe." He is currently in seclusion to heal his wounds. Otherwise, if we could get him to testify as well, then it would be completely foolproof. Han Li's eyes narrowed. Seeing the jade cocoon in the burly man's hand, he breathed a slight sigh of relief. Most of the worrying in his heart vanished. The three of them then discussed a few more things, matters concerning the details. Inside the silver light shield, suddenly, a strange hissing cry came from within. The three of them were greatly alarmed. They looked uncertainly at the bald man, just as they were about to take action. With a loud bang, a green, sharp claw suddenly shot out from the thunder and fire. It struck the light barrier in front of the three of them like lightning. The entire silver light shield trembled violently. What is this? It still has the strength to shake the restriction. The bald man was greatly shocked. He blurted out in disbelief. Han Li and the old man surnamed Ma were also slightly startled. Then, with a grave expression, the burly man formed a hand seal. A streak of white light shot onto the shield wall. The dense thunder and fire within the light suddenly came to a halt, revealing the static scene within. When they saw the scene inside clearly, the bald, burly man and the old man surnamed Ma both gasped in shock. Han Li's expression was grim and doubtful. Gu Shuangpu was nowhere to be seen. Standing inside was a half-human, half-demon snake monster. This creature was not quite human, and not quite a demon. It was wearing Gu Shuangpu's clothes. On the exposed parts of its face and limbs were all covered in emerald green scales. Its eyes were sinister and cold. Its fingertips were sharp and pointed. Two long, spiny snake tails were gently tapping the ground behind it, looking at the face visible between the scales. It was clearly Gu Shuangpu himself. But when its lips parted slightly, a purplish black tongue darted in and out, and it made a hissing sound. It was a chilling sight. This is the fusion technique. He actually merged with the twin-tailed emerald serpent. The old man surnamed Ma had now seen the monster's appearance clearly. His face instantly turned deathly pale, shouted in a bit of a panic, "Fuel and art. Isn't that a long-lost secret art? He is using this art. Isn't he afraid of being unable to enter the path of reincarnation?" The bald-browed burly man had clearly also heard the bloody rumors about the Fuel and art. Upon hearing the old man's words, his expression also changed drastically, revealing shock and anger. Then, as if facing a great enemy, he stared intently at the snake demon-like monster. He hastily slapped his storage pouch with one hand. With a flash of light, that brightly glowing restriction token appeared floating in his hand. The burly man spat a mouthful of essence blood onto the token, and tossed the token above his head. The sound of a sudden downpour rang out urgently, and at that moment, the monster in the light also began to move. With a gloomy gaze, it swept a glance over the three people outside the light. Its snake-like tongue flicked out twice. Quickly, its large mouth suddenly split open, all the way to its jowls. A stream of purplish-black liquid shot out from its mouth, heading towards Han Li and the others. Seeing this, the bald-browed burly man stopped the sound of the downpour, and hurriedly pointed at the token. The token radiated silver light. Over 10 silver spell seals shot out from it, flying into the light and disappearing from sight. A low roar like a dragon's cry rang out. After the emerald-green fluorescent light flashed wildly a few times, it became even thicker. At the same time, countless silver lightning flowers, several times larger than before, began to gather at the top of the light barrier. Taking shape, the monster spat black liquid onto the barrier wall. A small patch of the mesmerizing, fluorescent wall instantly turned pitch black, and quickly began to spread outwards. In just a moment, an area about 10 feet wide had been dyed a strange color. A ferocious expression flashed across the snake demon monster's face. Its two tails simultaneously slammed the ground behind it. It transformed into a streak of green light and shot forward. In the span of a single breath, the snake monster arrived before the blackened part of the barrier. With a flick of its pointed head, its emerald green claws struck fiercely without hesitation. With a loud bang, the incomparably tough light barrier was torn open like paper, creating a large hole. Seeing this, the monster was overjoyed, and in a blur, it was about to dash out through the opening. When the big man saw this, a look of horror appeared on his face. He hurriedly opened his mouth. A brilliantly white, rod-like magic weapon shot out from his mouth, transforming into a curtain of light that shielded his entire body. Elder Ma Shin's actions were not much different. He too, with a tense expression, spat out that ruler-like magic treasure. After a brilliant flash of light, a rosy cloud of light rose up, blocking the area in front of the two of them. The two of them were very clear about one reason: the terror of an early-stage cultivator in the spirit recovery art. Never mind the divine technique itself, their cultivation level could almost instantly rival a mid-stage cultivator's, and contend on equal footing. The moment they saw the monster emerge from its shell, They naturally prepared for a battle of attrition. They were not seeking to achieve victory, but first sought only to avoid making any mistakes. But at that moment, a helpless sigh came from the side, and someone immediately took the initiative to attack.